We are with Arizona Audio Stories, and we have a brand new segment called Lowrider Trends. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Richard Ochoa. I'm with Motorsport Showcase Events, and we have been producing car shows and any type of events associated with the lowrider industry for about 15 years under this name. Before that, I was a founder of a car club out of Mesa, Arizona called Society Car Club, and we started up the club in about 1980 out of Mesa. But we found out that today there's so much involved with the lowrider industry that we want to take it to the next level and talk about the trends, technology, and different aspects of the lowrider community. And today we want to start that off with, again, the new series is called Lowrider Trends. So let me go ahead and introduce the gentleman next to me right here.
Hello, my name is Frank Castillo from Frank's Hydraulics, president of Spirit Car Club. We started doing this 40 plus years. So we're going to get into technology today and some other things, car club, trends, paint jobs, and lowrider trends.
There you go, Frank. And the one thing I gotta just start off with, first of all, give people an understanding of what we're talking about is based on where we're from. That's the one thing about the lowrider industry. You know, Frank and I, we didn't grow up on Whittier Boulevard, but we grew up here in Central Avenue in downtown Phoenix, where it was a different world, but the commonality between Whittier, Central, and Main Street, or wherever you're at, it's all about the love of lowriding. And every area has its own very unique trends and lifestyles on the way the cars are not only built, but the way they're put together, the way they're displayed, and the way even the traditions of the car clubs themselves. You know, Frank, I got to tell you, Frank has been behind the scenes and in front with Spirit Car Club, but not only as the club president and leader of the club, but also a community leader and also a business owner. Owning a shop in Phoenix is not an easy task, and the fact of the matter is that he stays busy day in and day out, tells you that everybody likes to take their cars to Frank's Custom Hydraulics. So Frank, let's talk about the technology aspect a little bit. So on the lowrider scene, it's always been the hydraulics and the wheels and tires, first and foremost. So regarding like technology, I remember when I first lifted my car back in the 70s, you know, the hydraulic cylinders were not the stuff that we're putting in cars today. In fact, my cylinders were called Monroe cylinders. It was actually the manufacturer of an aircraft hydraulic cylinder that had a circumference of about 4 inches. You know, could you imagine a 4-inch cylinder fitting on a frame of a vehicle? You just about butchered the car. But since then, there's been a lot of different technology changes and changes up on those things, especially even on the pumps, especially because when you started in this game, I want to be very honest with you, a lot of us were working off the tailgate pumps that were on these commercial trucks. And we used to utilize those pumps, kind of clean them up a little bit and put them in our cars and use that to make things happen for the car. But back then, if you hit a tall boy, you were hitting some switches and you were having a good time. Nowadays, Frank's vehicles can literally touch the sky with a front bumper. And that in itself is an engineering feat that is not very easily done. And the reason it's not very easily done is because not everybody can do it. So Frank, let's talk about the technology from your side of the story.
Man, the technologies, we started in the late 70s. We didn't have no coils. We had no pumps. So we're going to get them off the liftgate trucks. And the dumps we have to use, they were electric on the side of the pumps, which was crazy. And nothing got welded to the frame. Everything was bolted in the trunks. The springs, we used to have to go get. There was a company that made them at the schoolyards for the little pigs and everything. You get on and ride. Yeah. So we used to call them playgrounds, the springs.
That's right.
You know, this is the late 70s, and then Autos Hydraulics came into town.
Yeah.
They brought parts, and from then we were still using the big cylinders, a lot of aircraft stuff. And today we still use the aircraft dumps.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, it's been a crazy ride. I mean, from then to doing, like you say, a tall boy, to now do 100 plus inches.
That's it.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
And the good thing about it, you know, Frank, when you talk about some of the stuff that's kind of stayed true to the game, like the dumps, is a particular brand is like a Hydroair. A Hydroair dump is kind of considered like a gold gem in the industry, right?
Yep, Hydroair.
Just an old school dump. And then you have the ADEX dumps. And once upon a time, these dumps were kind of brought in from the aircraft industry because of their reliability and how good they worked, and they had to work because they needed to keep the planes in the air. And we've taken that technology from the aircraft and adapted it to the cars. Because it's cool for the car to be driving up and down town, but what's even better is when the car is parked and it's laid all the way on the ground. And Frank, I know you've done a lot of applications on the cars where you make them, where you drop the vehicle, but how do they get the vehicle to go even below where the frame actually gets close enough to hit the pavement? Because I've seen some cars that are actually, I consider maybe C-framed.
Yep.
And when you do that, I mean, that car is basically body is almost touching the pavement.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, if somebody comes up to you and says, I want that done in my car, can you do it at your shop?
We still do them. We put the bridges through the trunk. We do a lot of the 50s right now, 57s, 56s. And so what we do is we C-notch the trunk and put everything in through the trunk like back in the days. We used to do that, and we're still doing it to this day, to where the car lays frame on the ground, literally on the floor.
Wow. Well, that's good. One thing that's probably the same, it's always been a headache for me, having hydraulics for all these years, is always the batteries. You know, I know we've gotten better with the gel batteries. For a while, they were kind of in a phase where everybody was using the gel batteries. But still, what I see is maybe the professionals out there that are still hopping, don't they just kind of stick with the 31 series or?
Still 31s.
Okay.
Decas is the best battery on the market.
There you go. There you go.
Know, so it's what we use, and then we do basic setups where we use a different kind of battery, you know, so it fits in the budget
there you
of
go.
a customer coming in, and you know, he only has so much money.
Yeah.
But the hopping game has gotten so big that, you know, it's costing $15,000 to $25,000 depending on how much you want to jump.
Wow. And with the fact that the car really didn't come that way, the engineering part or maybe the refab work that you have to do, so you don't crack your frame and bend the body. How do you guys do that without having all these ripples on the especially the rear quarters?
Well, the car has to come completely apart, so it's still like a frame off restoration. We do the frame, the arms, everything is stealth built. Rear ends, A-arms, everything in the trunk. You know, you fiberglass the quarter panels. There's so much into it. It's not like back in the days when we started in the 70s. You know,
Right.
You know, we used to go to California and hop back in the days in late 70s, and it was, you know, all, you know, matter of fact, they just did a show on it, and all the old guys were there, you know, and it was good. It was good to see that, you know, because the hydraulic games came a long way.
You know, and I got to give thanks for giving Joe Ray some credit on that for the Lowrider Garage series that we have. And that's the one thing that without that information coming out with some of these older guys and some of the OGs talking about what brought us to where we're at today, you know, we didn't know the roadmap that a lot of us have traveled. You know, so, and that's what we're here to do, is to talk about that and to educate maybe some of the younger guys, but also remind some of the older guys of how we got here. You know, because like Frank indicated, now what it takes to build a hopper is completely different what it was before in the past. And case in point is even with my vehicles that I had, once upon a time, if you open up my trunk, you'd have three or four different brands of batteries in the back of the trunk, you know, showing out there from my hydraulic system. Now, you know, we have some pristine applications out there, and I don't know if you have seen a system that Frank has built, but he's usually pretty good about everything from hard lines to when you open up a trunk and you see nothing but chrome, and it's very nicely designed to where in the past you'd open up your trunk, and you know, as soon as you opened your trunk, you would smell back then transmission fluid. You know, once upon a time we ran tranny fluid through those pumps, which was the worst thing you could do to a hydraulic pump. But after a few pumps, you learn that. So what are guys using nowadays, Frank, for that?
Well, you know, everybody has their own mixtures in the hop game, you know. I just use straight motor oil, 1030.
Cool.
You know, it's the most consistent. you have no problems. It's real good to the seals, you know. But as far as that, you know, this game came so far, and there's a lot of people that brought it like this, and it's good. This is coming out. Thank you guys for doing this because, man, it's we're heading the right direction.
Yeah. You know what? And I've had the honor to meet some OG guys, and Frank, I've seen him there before. We used to have the Lowrider Hall of Fame, and we did some inductees a while back. Some of the first inductees we brought into the Lowrider Hall of Fame was Gary May, of course. He's passed along, but also Ted Wells, which is still with us here. And, you know, Ted was involved with Autos Hydraulics in Phoenix. And actually, I have a close connection to Autos Hydraulics in Phoenix with my compadre, John Bully Rios, which John actually ran the shop in Phoenix when he was 16 years old. You know, he was running the hydraulic shop for autos in Phoenix. And that's the first taste that I ever got to see on what I consider professional installs and actually professional equipment built for the cars, you know. But that technology has taken us through to so many different levels, and the good thing about it is that we still have more room for improvement. Okay, so let's talk about other parts of the Lowrider Trends that have been happening throughout the years, and that's maybe the way the car clubs are made up. You know, Frank has probably one of the most well-respected car clubs in the country, Spirit Car Club. Though a lot of the Spirit members from Phoenix are still connected one way or the other. Martin Sanchez, which is part of the Arizona Barrios management, is an old Spirit member. And Frank has kept that connection with Martin, along with keeping that connection with a lot of OG members. But the one thing that's been a constant is Frank's involvement with the club. Now, once upon a time, Frank, when you got the club started with Joe Montenegro, the club, did it start off automatically out of the fact that you guys worked at a hydraulic shop together, or was that just secondary?
Well, I think that's like Martin and Joe, you know, they had a big role. They're the ones that started it. You know, I worked with Joe at the shop at House of Hydraulics from 80 to 85. And, you know, and then when we got hired to do special effects in a movie, Joe stayed in LA doing the special effects. I came back home and took over in 1985.
Wow.
And kept it going since, you know, with the help of a lot of the older members, you know, like, you know, we're still strong. We have 55 members.
Wow.
You know, and we're active with about, you know, the young guys, we're close to 30. So we keep a lot of the older guys. I call them older, they get mad because we're all the same age. But yeah, it's, so we're pretty strong still. And you know, it's, and you too, you know, Society, you've been there at the same time.
Yeah, you know what, we've kind of been a smaller club all the time. You know, the Society Car Club, we're out of Mesa. Relatively, Mesa was a pretty conservative city when we started car clubbing back in the days. But I'm very proud of the fact that we've stuck it out all these years, and we've continued to grow as a car club. But the common thing between Spirit and Society is that we've been consistent in staying as an active car club for all these years. You know, there's a lot of car clubs that will say, you know, we've been around for X amount of years, or we've been around for X amount of years. But the fact of the matter is, the real challenges is when you can actually keep the doors open for 41 years. You know, when you can keep your doors open, keep your club active, and almost hit every super show, or at least every major car show in your region, that's a big accomplishment.
Yes, and we've both been like that since day one. We've made it to all the shows, you know, never took time off, been here 100% solid.
Yeah.
You know, and representing Arizona well, you know.
Yeah.
You keep saying you guys are small. You guys are big, man, you know. Society's good, you know, tough club, man. And
well, appreciate that. Appreciate the kind words on that, brother. And again, when we first started the club back in 1980, 81, the first time I showed my Monte Carlo, we had a little bit of, you know, it was just a small club, but I'm showing it myself. And this club that just started 6 months ago, you know, has a 12-car lineup. And I'm talking about candies, pearls, and almost everybody's laid on the ground, lifted, probably from Frank's Custom Hydraulics or the House of Hydraulics back then.
House of Hydraulics, yeah.
And you guys started off really strong, and you've kept it all those years going strong. So thank you for that, because you've helped the Arizona lowrider industry continue to thrive that way. And there's still a lot of clubs we haven't even mentioned. And there's always been the debate about who was the very first car club here in Phoenix, who was the second, the third, the fourth, and that's going to be a topic we're going to bring up in regards to how we got to these car clubs being first, second, and third. But it's not really sometimes about who starts first. Sometimes it's about who's ending up last. And we're going to talk about that as well, too. So,
well, it goes pretty far. My dad was in car clubs, and
beautiful.
That was a long time ago.
That's it.
And so it goes back. There's the history goes way back,
Yeah.
and I hear everybody talk about it, and there's a lot of clubs to say they're the first. I wouldn't even. Who cares about who's the first? It's about that we're still strong.
That's right.
And that's where we started from, because I started from all my dad and and uncles and family.
What did your dad have?
He had a 50 bomb.
Oh, nice.
And their biggest thing back then was to take, a stick shift on this side. They put it on the left side. They called it suicide. And,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things. And then, Manuel Moreno, started Sophisticated Few.
Yep.
Late 70s. I was there with him and, his family. And we all grew up on the same street, Raymond Street,
Yeah.
which produced a lot of guys in the lowrider industry that are still around to this day.
Oh, that's great. So that was the right street to live on, sounds like, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
right off Central.
Yep.
That's where we're at. Central.
And I remember seeing you guys actually when the few came down to an event that I was in the car club before society called Pride Car Club back in the 70s. Me and my compadre John was with that club, and we'd go to Pioneer Park on Sundays, and the few would come down, and they would park there. They had some really nice rides back then, man, and I remember seeing the first time I saw Frank. I think he weighed about 10 pounds less than he weighs now. But, that back in those days, we were all younger, more energized, and, we were full and ready to go with the sport. But here we are, in later days, in later years, and Frank still has that energy. He still has that desire. He still has that drive to keep this culture going. So what he's done, because the fact that his dad was a lowrider. Frank's really a second generation lowrider. And the same applies with me. My dad used to cruise Superior and Main Street in Castillo back in the 50s, I'm sorry. And back in the 50s, they didn't have hydraulics back then, but they were lower the vehicles and had that same kind of style.
Sandbags.
Yeah, there you go. It was sandbags things, man, and weighing the cars down. But that style just prevailed and kept it going through, and the traditions that had me started up in Superior carried me through to Mesa. And I didn't even know these guys in Phoenix were doing the same thing. So it's so interesting how every city started its own roots, and it was so the similarities of what lowriding is today has continued to just stay on course. I think the thing that's probably stayed on the longest is, other than the hydraulics, is maybe your custom wheels. One other thing too is you got to have a good sound system. I know that, but having some good jams, having some cool wheels, and you're on your ride, and having it on the ground, that combination altogether just kind of stimulates the mind. At least it does with me.
Yep.
That
was definitely a driving. You got to have all the music.
There you go.
The rims, and the rims came, man, so far.
Oh yeah.
And it's back to the same rims again. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a recycling process, and I'm glad I kept my old True Rays, because I got them back on my 59 Impala these days.
Yeah, those are.
So let's also talk about some car club trends that have changed, but also some that have stayed the same. And one of the traditions that almost every car club has in this country is the fact that they usually have officers. And there's a few clubs that don't have officers, that just have a council or a group of individuals that's responsible for the club. But more than anything else, there has to be leadership in the club to kind of drive it and keep it focused, and also just take care of business. Because the car club, even though we're a family, it's still, you got to treat it like a business. And that is the case, especially when you have an organization that you have people that come from different walks of life. And what they bring to the table all together can make the club or break the club. Yeah. And that's the one thing that we've seen so much in regards to the car clubs. Now, first car clubs back in the U.S., actually a car club called the Dukes, started up in 1962. And in 62, there were no rules, no guidelines, or anything about what a lowrider club should do. But the Ruelas brothers put together a good plan and a good foundation of running that car club, from having Julio being their first president, and Fernando being the right-hand man until their passing. The Ruelas brothers had a very good idea of what car clubbing was, and many clubs after them followed suit and used that same template, and it's been a very successful template, and that's kept the clubs active and kept them going to where it's an organization that stays focused, and clubs have different styles as well. There's some car clubs that are more social than cars, and there's some car clubs that are more cars than social. But all together, as an industry, we all do well with each other, and the proof is at the car shows themselves. A lowrider car show is basically a lowrider convention. It's when we all get together, talk about our ideas, our differences, and some of the highlights, and some of the things that have put us on the map, and some of the things that we've learned lessons on not what to do. But the one thing about car clubs is that the consistency of our organizations have helped us from the times that we started as young guys to where we kind of get into our midlife, is we've created leaders in the industry, but we've also created leaders in the community. And when you do that, you're helping the community as well as your car club. So I don't know, I hope that makes sense to you, but anyway, anything you want to add to that, Frank?
Yep, car club trends have changed so dramatically that, back in the 70s, these cars were new that we were lowriding in. They were a few years old, and so we started with that, so we didn't have to do really too much with the paints, in the late 70s, and then as the early 80s started, we got everything, new paint, new upholstery, lifts, and back then it was True Spoke rims, and then they came out with the rim called the Big Hubs, was True Classics, and we went from there, and so we just got back to the paint jobs really, and laid on the ground. There was no chrome undercarriages, it was
That's it.
all laid on the floor. You weren't even showing your hood and trunk back in the days. So we became that much better to where nowadays even our hoppers are full chrome undercarriage, chrome motors, interiors are done. And these are hoppers where back in the days people thought, oh, hoppers are junk. So to me that's where it's all gotten way better. I see a lot of clubs have stepped up, because back in the days, guys were just so with their cars. Now you got these little clubs that have become big clubs, and they've become so much better. You go to the car show, it's not like back in the days where people would walk past the car. 90% of the cars in there are really top notch now. So I feel for this guy, because he's a head judge, and man, their work is hard now because the competition is so stressful. I'm glad I just kicked back. But it's actually stressful being the president of a big car club, because it is an organization, and we go to shows and it's hard. When you're showing 10 to 20 cars and you come in there and it's to put displays, and and you have all these guys trying to help do this, it's a job. It really is, and we have one heck of a crew, all our guys. And the thing about our club is I pushed it to where I'm the president of the club, but all my guys are leaders too. So any given time, if I'm not there, they know what to do, as far as displays, putting up, taking down, making sure the cars are wiped down, and then we got the prospects coming in, they get in there and they have to work, they have to do things, and I love it. And it drives me, and I still do it to this day, 150%. The lowrider game, the hopping game, and so it's gotten a lot better.
Thanks for those kind words, Frank, in regards to the fact that you've taken upon yourself to make sure that the next generation is going to learn this, and they learn it by what you're doing. Everybody learns better by example than anything else.
Yep.
So when they see what you're doing and how hard you're working for the cause, they're going to maybe try to stay with that and just keep it up. It's not an easy task to put a car display together. For those of you who are in car clubs, you probably understand that it doesn't happen by accident. There has to be organization, and even just putting together a small car display can cost thousands and thousands of dollars. You know, I know you guys have taken car club display for many, many shows, and the one that you've had for quite a while, it still stands out today. You know, especially with the fact that when you're at the show and you walk in the front building and the first thing you see is that spirit banner that's on the other side of the show, but it's way up, it's like 15 feet in the air, you know. And, you know, all that stuff, it takes purpose to do that.
Yep.
So
it's very hard. It's you know, and then tear down is too. Is you know, you got to bring in trailers, and you know, the car show is crazy because everybody's stepped the game up.
Yep.
It's everybody. You know, all the car clubs have definitely stepped the games up. So it's.
And we're going to see some of how much people have stepped the game up with maybe this coming up year. You know, this year, Lowrider Magazine is going to be celebrating its 44th edition on the Super Show. And November 20th, we're going to be at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and we're going to see what's the newest trends, what's the newest fads, what's the newest styles, and most importantly, you know, what's the newest champions looking like. These guys are going to be competing. We have over 850 vehicles that are going to be competing for cash and prizes valued at about $75,000. So, I mean, that's no joke in regards to the energy that we put in to make these shows happen. But it does take all that to make these car shows to continue to be the trend. And as long as the car shows are for us, we're for them.
I just want to bring up my Arizona Super Hop. So it's a 2-day event. It's now a car show. Richard Ochoa joined the team, and he'll be in there taking care of the car show end. So it's a 2-day event, February 19th and 20th. Arizona's longest tradition running Super Hop.
Right on, Frank. That should be a great event. I'm looking forward to it. And again, in closing, we want to talk about the fact that this Lowrider Trends feature with Arizona Audio Stories is going to be something you're going to see new things, new ideas, and more importantly, some people that we haven't talked to as of yet. And we have a lot of deep, deep history in Phoenix, and actually the entire state of Arizona, for the lowrider industry. And we're going to bring some of those people up to the forefront, and so we can have a nice discussion with them and give them an opportunity to give their story on what lowriding is and what Lowrider Trends are about with them as well. So again, I want to thank you guys for joining us. Looking forward to the next one. And on behalf of Arizona Audio Stories, thank you very much.
I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Get up off of that thing and dance to you better. Get up off of that thing and dance to you. Sing it now. Get up off of that thing and dance to you better.